Hello, welcome to another amazing episode of Transcendent Leader. I am Andrea Albright, and today's episode is truly going to blow you away. You've seen some amazing success stories of CEOs and leaders throughout this interview series, and wait until you see our next guest. It's really going to take things to a whole nother level. And of course, we are joined by Satya Raja, the creator of this Transcendent Leader series. Welcome, Satyan.
Always awesome. I'm really looking forward to connect with all of us, and there's some great depths of wisdom that are very real here, and I'm calling and inviting everyone to listen, not only with your ears, but your ears of your ears and your whole being. There's lots here for us today.
And with that, let's introduce our very special guest. Cynthia Davis is not only an extraordinary business person, leader, but she's also a majestic queen. Wait until you get a taste of her energy, her passion, her enthusiasm, and her brilliance. We are truly honored to have you here, Cynthia. Welcome.
What an introduction. How beautiful. And I'm paired up here with two amazing leaders in their own right, and both have been teachers of mine. So what an honor for me. Thank you for having me.
Oh, well, it's just a big love fest. You know, before we got started with this interview, Satyan specifically requested the uncut version. So I cannot wait to see what happens as we are all co-creating.
Beautiful.
For our viewers who may not know who you are, can you give us a background of who you are as a leader, as a performer, as a divine manifester and goddess on this planet?
Wow, thank you. And I do feel like a divine manifester on this planet, but it hasn't always been that way, has it, Satyan? It's a bit of a journey. And so I'm so honored to be here with you, as having taken me on that journey for many years. And I just am, it's an honor, and I'm privileged to be here. But like I said, it hasn't always been that way. I started my career in an industry that was pretty difficult industry, actually, at the time. It's in the aerospace and defense industry. And as an engineer and a systems engineer, I stepped into that with a lot of enthusiasm. I was very talented, very smart, and a lot of enthusiasm. And I soon realized I did not want to sit in a cubicle throughout my career. So engineering was not going to be my course of my direction in my career. And I soon found that I loved working with people. I loved stepping into leadership roles and really having a mission and being able to pull together a team and accomplish that mission. So given that passion in me, and I think it's always kind of been there, whether it was in sports or in business or my career, I soon rose to pretty top positions in the companies that I worked with. And I truly did enjoy it. I enjoyed the people I worked with. And I thought, you know, every promotion, I thought it was supposed to get more fulfilling. And I thought every promotion was supposed to be better. And every promotion certainly came with a bigger title or more money or more prestige, but it didn't have the fulfillment factor that I was looking for. There was something else that I was looking for that seemed to say, I colored between the lines, I did all the things that I was supposed to do, and yet I just knew that either there was so much more I could be doing, or there was so much more opportunity to work with people or touch their lives in a more meaningful way than what I was doing. And I started a journey to go find that. And in my journey of reading books from amazing teachers and just starting to reach out and find out what else was out there, I actually had the opportunity to meet Satyan, and it really touched my heart in a very deep way, because what I saw him teaching to leaders, so it wasn't just people who were down on their luck. From all intents and purposes, if you looked at what I was doing in my career, people would say, oh my gosh, if only, you know, we could do that. And so it looked really good, but yet there was something deep inside that needed to be expressed that wasn't having the opportunity to do that in the industry I was in. And he touched that place and awoken it for me. And it was like a wake-up call for me. And that was the beginning of a journey. And once you kind of ring that bell, you can't unring it. So once that door is open, it's like, and you step in, it's the curiosity of what else and how far and how deep is it going to take you is just an amazing place to be. And that is, to me, that is transcendence, right? It's the opening and the expansion and the deeper work inside that just starts to get expressed outside. And so I have never looked back.
Wow, I'm so excited to go even deeper into your journey. Satyan, why do you think Cynthia represents the transcendent leader?
Cynthia, from my experience with you, when you started, you were at the top of your game in peak performance. And so those of us who are drawn to the path of entrepreneurship, life mastery, we enjoy self-performance and the mastery of performance, because we all know that if you want to have a better life, more freedom, more financial abundance, more relational abundance, more experience abundance, you have to perform better. You have the same amount of time we all have. We have one body. Who knows if we have more lives? We have this life. So we have to come to the best of our bestness, if we will, to attain even greater. Now, what happens is there's a ceiling, from my experience, of how far we can continue to perform at more peak levels. No matter, I have a very nice car. I have a BMW. I really enjoy my BMW. But my other friend, Monty, has a Lamborghini, and it can go or a Ferrari, can go way faster than mine. No matter what I do to tune up my BMW, put better gas, better spark plugs, I can perform it at its highest. But the actual architecture infrastructure is not meant to go the same way. That car, the super exotic, was designed to perform at a higher level. So we can hit the edge of peak performance. So what's next? And that's where I believe Cynthia and I really connected, because transcendent leadership for me is about peak existence.
Yeah.
Peak existence. How does my spirit wish to live? If these were my last days on the planet and I felt death at my doorstep and there's no stepping back into the known, to the complacent, to the ordinary, what would my life look like unhinged, so that I'm experiencing the fullness of what life has? Without looking at the safeties of my past boxes, my past successes. To do that, we have to have the yearning to go deeper rather than go more out in the world. And that's what I saw when we first met Cynthia, your great willingness and realness about wanting to find the deeper meaning and truths of life. And to me, that search, as you shared, once that door is opened, you can't go back, because the path of truth leads us to profound transcendence.
I love the word that you used, unhinged, right? Because it felt that way. It felt like I finally connected to something that could open up and be unhinged. And I could find the way to really express and redesign to get to the next level of performance, which was not about how I did it in the past. And this was so interesting, Satyan, what I've learned through this process, that, you help us discover it almost for ourselves, right? And that was this. I measured the success of what I was doing from other people's perspective, right? As opposed to being unhinged and allowing it to say, you know what, that's actually the status quo. When I'm unhinged and actually designing the peak performance from the inside out, we live in this abundant universe. And so it literally is the abundance of what I choose to design it to be. And that for me was a switch. The other piece that I found that really switched for me was this whole idea of, well, it's actually two parts. One is letting go of the identity of who I thought I was, because I had the title, I had the position, I had the income, I had the house, the car, the 2 kids, the dog. I mean, I had all of that. And so it came with an identity and a package. And when I decided, no, I want to be unhinged, I have something that's actually wanting to be expressed and come out in a bigger way, it took a while to go through that transition to understand, okay, well, if I'm not that, then who am I? And in the discovery and the awareness of who I actually and just the knowingness. It literally is it's like that aha moment. It's like the all of a sudden the ice in the water just melting to an awareness of divinity being expressed. I didn't have to be concerned about the title anymore. I didn't have to be concerned about the good opinion of others, as they say, right? It was my peak performance was based on what I knew I had the ability to do. And so in redesigning myself and redesigning my life, I could build a business around what I call my lifestyle business, which is exactly what I set out to do. So that whole thing that we talk about and have all kinds of discussions and dialogue around this work-life balance is such a, it's almost like, it's like an oxymoron, right? We sometimes talk about military intelligence as an oxymoron. Well, work-life balance is the same thing. It's really life and putting it all together in a space of equilibrium and balance so that everything, right? So that, you know, rising tide raises all boats. It's so all aspects of your life get better. So your relationship gets better, it gets expanded. The business that I was creating was starting to have my imprint from the inside out, not somebody else's opinion of what it should look like. I could choose the customers I wanted and express and work with them the way I saw their needs and could meet their needs in a very special way. Health, everything started to get better. And it's interesting because it's not that you don't have bumps in the road, you just don't view them the same way, right? I mean, for me at least, it was, yeah, bumps come along, but now I can have choices and I can respond in a very wholesome way versus getting restricted and tense and tied up in what should I be doing or how should I solve this problem. It's like, it's none of that. It's now just a deeper expression of how it's supposed to be.
I love listening to you speak, Cynthia. It's like waxing poetry with deep, ancient wisdom all in one. And so for the viewer who hasn't been part of your journey, you know, can you really take us back to that moment where here you are, your resume is as good as it can be, a leader of multi-billion-dollar corporations, top of your game, and that moment when you realized I have to let it all go to be an entrepreneur. Can you take us back to that moment or to that time? What were you feeling? What were your fears? Because I'm sure the viewers may be going through that as well.
Well, I have goosebumps when you say that because it does take me back to that moment, and why I'm not triggered emotionally by it anymore. I still have certainly the appreciation for having gone through that and what others might go through, right? And for me, it was, and I literally remember the moment of driving home one night, and it was very late. I worked late in the evening. And as I was driving home, I come across this bend in the road on my path home, and people call it kamikaze curve because it's a very sharp bend. And I remember driving around that thinking, if I didn't make that turn in the road, and I was just going to keep going straight instead of making that turn, would it really matter? Will I have made an impact? What would my having been here at that point, I was in my early 40s, what would that have meant to the people in my life through the 40 years of my life? Did it really matter? And I came to such a cold, hard place where I pulled over on the side of the road and I just wept, saying, there's something more. And I have to be, it's like I'm going to go on a search until I find it. And literally a few days later, I gave my 2 weeks notice and everyone thought I was crazy. I mean, my family was ready to write a note to the doctor saying, do something with her because she obviously isn't in her right mind. And maybe this is what a nervous breakdown looks like. But for me, it was the farthest thing from a nervous breakdown. For me, it was awakening to there was something rich and real, and I wanted to find it. And I started that journey. And I you know, it's so interesting because once you put your will to it, I think, or once you just decide, it was clearly a decision that I was cutting off anything that was not where I was supposed to be. All of a sudden, it's almost like the universe conspires with you to bring about the right situations and the right people. And I met one person who led me to another person who said, well, maybe you'd enjoy going to this event or going and hearing this person talk. And eventually I stood right in a session. And I don't know if Sachin remembers this or not, but I was in a group session with him and he was doing an exercise and we experienced something. And it had nothing to do with that. It had to do with a transmission I felt. And immediately after that, I went up to them and I said, I don't know what you're doing, but sign me up. And it was literally, you know, I mean, that was it. And it's one of those things where it just kind of, there's a quickening when you see it, right? It's a quickening. It's like sometimes if you know, before I had an awareness or an attunement to that, you know, you say, well, let me think on it. Let me sleep on it. Let me write my pluses and minus columns to see if it's going to add up and I'm going to get an ROI on my investment. And should I be doing this and shouldn't I be doing that? And you know what? I would say to anybody that's listening, it's like when you connect in or when you feel that, or there's that quickening and your spirit, your soul says, yes, let go of the mind that's going to take you back to, yeah, but I have to think about this, or yeah, but let me sleep on it and see how I feel in the morning, right? Listen to that voice because it's always going to take you to the next opportunity, to the next one that's going to lead you to where it is that you set your will to say, this is where I want to go.
That's so beautiful. And I know that everyone is so grateful that you listened to that voice. I want to invite our live participants. If you're joining us live, you can submit a question, a comment to Cynthia, Satyan. We would love to invite you into this conversation. And so, Cynthia, I'm curious, how did Satyan's teachings help you with that transition of going from corporate America, top of the game, multi-billion-dollar organizations into entrepreneurship?
That was probably one of the most important parts of the journey. And as I said earlier, it was letting go, helping me to realize that what I was holding on to as an identity wasn't real. There was no truth in it. It wasn't real. It was a title. It was all the things, but it could have been slipped. The rug could have been slipped out from under me at any moment, any time. It wasn't, there wasn't real. It wasn't sustainable over, you know, in terms of my ability to control it or do anything. It was just something that was that false belief that somehow that's who we are. And you get so attached to that. When I could let go of that and realize that I am so much more than that. I'm so much more than a title, right? The amazing essence of who we all are so much more than that. The essence, when you can connect in and have a knowingness and just a awareness of that soul essence that's here to express itself, and we get these amazing bodies and physiology to be able to do just that. It changes the game. It's an inside out game at that point in time.
Wow, that's beautiful. Satyan, I'd love to hear your take on this when Cynthia is speaking of this crisis of identity and really what does it matter? Do you find that leaders who reach a certain point and are bumping up into that ceiling of transformation, do you find that that's when they're ripe to go into the level of transcendence?
That's when they're absolutely right.
Yeah.
That's when they've been growing on the tree, filling up with nutrients, getting riper and riper, and then that apple or that fruit, when it's ready, that nut, it's ready to fall and spread and its seeds and its light and its nutrition and nourishment to other beings. And so there's that time. If you wait too long, it sits there, it can rot. If you don't utilize the nutrients that are there in this ripening fruit of self, then that goes to waste. Or if you pluck it too early and you try to grow, mature, it doesn't do that. You have to give it its own time. So I want to go step back a bit and share the experience from how I see it, what Cynthia, what you shared about, what we're all going through. And being absolutely uncut, my particular philosophy is that we are divine individuals, divine conscious beings with choice, that we're outside of time and space, and that we're infinite in all ways. Yet to have a human experience, we have to come into some form of restriction. Just like if you're going to be playing a game of chess or any sport, you have to restrict yourself down from anything you want to do with the chessboard, to throwing it, playing frisbee, to restricting yourself with another, saying these are the rules, we'll play within it. And you have to go from you, this big being, to this tiny little pieces and move around. So we craft at a divine level, if you will, at a soul level, specific traps in our freedom and our love. So because we are love and freedom, we wish to play the game of remembering that we are love and freedom. And to remember that we're love and freedom, we have to play the game, first of all, of hide and seek, that we have forgotten we are love and freedom, and that's what birth and life are, and everything in between. Life and death, birth and death. For me, the way I see it is an ever evolutionary spiral of this beingness, this soul essence, our divine self, that goes through stages of a little bit more remembering, a little forgetting, a little bit more remembering, snakes and ladders, going up a little, falling a little, but eventually we're all on this larger collective spiral of evolution. Now, having said that, when we're at the beginning stages, early stages, middle stages, we become very identified to identities. Identities are the roles we have. Hey, Satyan, you're a good boy. And everyone tells me I'm a good boy. Then I'm a young teenager. They go, oh, you're a bad boy, Satyan, bad boy. So now I'm a good boy, and now I'm getting imprints a little older, being a little naughty. You're a bad boy. So now in my unconscious mind, I've got good boy, bad boy. Then going to high school, smart kid, dumb kid. We all have so many labels that have been projected, put onto us, that we've absorbed, digested, and turned into what we think is who we actually are. Now that keeps evolving. Mother, father, CEO, father. We have all these particular roles. Now, in essence, metaphysically, psychologically, what is an identity? An identity, simply put, is a viewpoint with a goal. So when I'm in the identity of a business leader, I have a viewpoint. The viewpoint is of a business leader. What's my goal? Well, if I had to think about what's the goal of my identity as a business leader, well, it's to have a thriving, awesome business that suits my lifestyle and the lifestyle of my team and makes an impact. So every identity we have has an ultimate goal. Now, and when that goal is fulfilled, that identity is no longer one that needs to be lived. It no longer needs to be nourished. So when I was a younger fellow, my identity, I wanted to be a Kung Fu teacher. And when in my 20s, I became one. That became my identity. And after I was there for a decade or more, 15 years, I realized that identity now, I fulfilled its goal. Every time we go through a spiral of fulfilling an aspect of our dharma, our karma, our own individual path of evolution, it becomes stale after a while. It's meant to. This hurting, this feeling of hollowness, this feeling of I'm lost, I'm not fulfilled, no matter what it looks like in the external dimension. That's the sacred calling of the soul. That's your own evolutionary impulse going, time for more evolution, time to spark up my evolution and to move beyond my old identity. And what's the new identity? This in-between phase is the phase that's uneasy, is a lot of risk filled, because we've built a lot of our lives on the previous identity structures. To surrender that identity, sometimes our egoic fear is that we'll lose all the good stuff that we got from those previous identities. But I'm here to tell you it's not the case. That's the illusion. The releasing of those outdated identities and the discovering of who you are today, now, fresh, alive in the moment, that will craft and create and generate far more next level of success, ease, fulfillment than one can ever imagine. I'm batting 100% with this. I've seen this time and time again. Now, how do we do this? What's the how behind it? And you mentioned this very magical moment, sacred moment of releasing your identity. There's a particular process that we go through that comes from ancient Zen practices, yogic practices. We call it Kensho, Vichara. Andrea, Cynthia, you both have experienced this. And we go through a series of inquiries, feeling who we are here and now, and then also feeling who we're not here and now. And we do this group meditation, and layer after layer of these old identities come up and get released, come up and get released. And then what eventually happens is you release all attachments to your identity, and your true light bulb, your true self, comes to the forefront. The one that was here before any identity, the one that will be here after any identity, your eternal self. That becomes the new path. That becomes the seat of transcendence. When one attains this experience, now what happens is the universe bows at your feet and starts to magnify and offer you what's in your soul's calling. Because now you're coming from the soul, not your identities. This is a sacred moment, and you've both gone through it, and there's continuous initiations in this. And this itself right now is an initiation into this.
There is. It's like when you're talking about that balance, I like your word equilibrium, because once you can come to that place where you're all the aspects of your life, you're more in equilibrium, then it is an elevation. And you go through those sheddings of other kinds of identities that you put on for a while, and then you realize, no, it's, again, you know better. You've had a knowing, you know that's not who you are. But it's almost as if, at least for me, I will have a sense of, maybe it's kind of like this disturbance in the force, if you will, right? It's like, okay, and what I know is I ask this question to myself. I say, okay, so what is here to learn? What is here to be remembered? Because I know I'm stepping into something to be learned and remembered to move me up to the next level of take, in an equilibrium manner, take me up to another level, or allow me to move into a space that I haven't yet experienced. Right. So sometimes, it's the old way of approaching that. If there was trouble going on, or things weren't working out quite the way I wanted to, I'd kind of like, oh, well, I can control this. I can will this to be different. I can create another goal and make another goal happen. And now it's just like, you can just kind of step back and observe it and say, okay, so what's here? What is there here for me to learn? What is there here for me to remember? And then all of a sudden it's a revealing from within, and it takes you to a new place of understanding. It takes you to a new place of expansion. It takes you to a new place of no attachment to what was sitting there in front of you. And now you've got choice. Now you're making choices from a inner wisdom, not an expectation or external, making people happy or trying to, none of all that goes away, right? It's like that you can't even go back there because it's not real.
So profound, all that you're sharing. I'd love to hear, where are you today? What is it like now that you're on the other side? Who are you attracting into your vortex? What products are you creating? How are you making this impact from your soul's expression?
So when I had first started this transition journey, I set up a business, and it was in the same industry, but it was an opportunity to really work with clients and bring more I would say deeper concepts of leadership, things that I had learned in terms of, in working with Sajin and some other teachers, where we really wanted to take a deeper look at what leadership really looked like and what it meant, and being, I could use the word authentic, or being transcendent, being real. And so I formed a company called Radiant Blue, and have attracted some amazing people into that company. And we go out and we work with businesses that are looking to grow, looking to expand, and do it in a way that is in a place of service and winning and a place where people really just enjoy being there and enjoying liking to come to work. So we focus on the culture aspect of it as well. And I've done that over the last several years, and every year, especially the last 3 years, we have doubled every year in the last 3 years. Thank you, Satya, for all
Wow.
the, and really, some of these, everything that we learn when we apply it, it produces its fruit after its own kind, right? What's really come up in the last couple of years is my heart for working with women and women entrepreneurs. And so now that I've built this one business and I have an amazing team and my partner is now working with me on that business as well, it's given me the opportunity over the last few years to really focus on my love of working with women entrepreneurs. And, it's something where there's so many women out there and men, but I love working with women in this regard that have amazing talents, amazing gifts, amazing things that they absolutely want to share with others. And sometimes I say their work is here to raise the consciousness of the planet. But what sometimes some of the things get in our way are the fears of, well, how do I actually do it? How do I brand myself? How do I monetize this? How do I build a business around it? And that's my gift. And so I've had the opportunity to work with women entrepreneurs in bringing that to the forefront and helping them discover their voice, understand their message, find a way of articulating their message where it's theirs, it's not somebody else's that they're trying to imitate and think that it's going to work for them. And so we really develop that and work with them and help them put that together in an aligned way so that they can actually build a lifestyle business for themselves. And I've had several women who have been in business or been in corporate America or have made a lot of money and then want to transition to something else, and they sit there in fear. Well, how do I actually do this? We show them that we can take a look at how do we actually unbundle that so that you can build it back up and design it the way you want it, and have the kind of business that really is supportive of your lifestyle and your ability to actually make the impact that is on your heart to make.
That's so beautiful. And it's so profound because you've made that transition, you're doing it, and now you're the perfect person to help others through that transition as well. Satyan, do you feel like this part of our dharma or our soul's mission is inside of us, and if we don't find it, that it'll continue to haunt us? Or is it something that we can just go, okay, it's not meant for us to do this in this
It'll
life?
haunt you for a while, and then it'll knock louder, and then it'll start nipping at you, then it'll start barking, then it'll start taking a bite out of you, and then it could kill you. So that's the actuality of ignoring your soul's call for evolution. We're going to pass away anyways. And so why not meet our demise looking back and going, I lived the life I fully am called to live?
Yeah.
That's the end of the day real question. We will be at the end of the day one day.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the sobering practices to start to tap into transcendence is to look back, to be at your deathbed, and to really feel with honesty and vulnerability, who are the people I wish to have around me? What are the experiences that I have had that are fulfilling to me, to my soul? What are the lives I've touched? Which hearts have I nourished and opened and healed and helped? How much goodness and abundance have I supported in others? These higher virtues, these values, they grow in us. And ultimate freedom, ultimate love comes from living these deepest truths. And so that becomes liberation. Our liberation is actually not for the future. Liberation is something that starts in this very moment. And it's the continuous redeciding, honoring, and loyalty to this, to you, to the deepest truth within you.
Mhm.
So I've come to, I believe that we all have a deep vision and purpose. We know about it in business. We also have it as an individual, as a being. And to discover that is so valuable, it's so valuable. One of the ways to start to discover that, and look, where can I find that, is what did we not get enough of from our parents, our mother figure, our father figure, that we wanted more of as a child, but we didn't get. It could be affection, words of encouragement, a good safety and a feeling of a pat on the back. It could be being recognized for who you are uniquely, as opposed to all your other siblings or other people. There's a part of our soul that continuously, in our psychology, our psyche, our dendrites, that yearn to be filled by those things that we didn't get filled with. Of course, we got good stuff, we're still here, but there's some voids in our being. And so in that void of being, what do? It's like we're unconsciously trying to fill it all the time, right? We're trying to fill it with this, trying to fill it with that, with food, with sex, with alcohol, with drugs, with TV, with gossip magazines, with every form of thousands of distractions you can think of, right? Every form. And what I've discovered is that until you really, if you stop distracting yourself, and instead of trying to get yourself filled by those things that your parents didn't give you, what if you gave them? What if you gave more attention? What if you gave more presence? What if you gave more love? What if you gave more sense of having others feel, wow, you're valuable, you're important, life is like that changes everything. And when you are willing to do that, then you go from ego to transcendence in that very moment.
That's beautiful. I know that I've also experienced that shift, and it's so counterintuitive because you have this hole in you, this wound in you that is insatiable to want to fill. And so you think, okay, I just need to get more and more and fill more of that up. But what you have taught me, and I know the other leaders who are investing with you and on this journey, is that when you give it, it's actually coming from you. And so it has this abundance vibration where you're no longer feeling scarcity or like there's not enough. It's overflowing from you. And it's the biggest shift that you can make to fill that wound. And I'm curious, Satyan, do you think that being a transcendent leader takes courage?
Whoa. It does take courage, but it's a different type of courage, Andrea. And it's the type of courage where it's not about, can I conquer something? Or can I reach that top of the mountain? Or can I have the courage to break through that obstacle and face fear in the face? That's a type of bravado, masculine courage. It's not needed for this path, for transcendence. A subtler path of courage is needed. And that's the courage to enter the unknown. Welcome back. It's the courage to enter.
Got it.
It's the courage to, Andrea was asking me about courage. Do we need to have courage on this transcendent path? And I was saying it's not the courage of bravado we need, or conquering, or the next attainment, or face fear. This is the courage to be softer and more delicate. This is the courage to change your lifestyle, your calendar, and put your family, your fitness, your vitality, your deepest connections, what fulfills your being at the core of life. That takes courage. For some people, it's facing the inner judgment of, am I working hard enough?
Mm-hmm.
Or am I fulfilling what dad and mom think I should? If they were alive or still alive, will they judge me thinking, hey, I'm not working hard enough? Or is there some part of nobility structure or valiant push inside yourself that feels that you need to overcome and struggle and conquer to be able to be worthy of deeper and fuller abundance of life. No, it takes a deeper, sacred, spiritual courage to say, I'm willing to go inward. Not to go harder, stronger, faster, but to go slower, to become more agile, to become more sensitive to the forces of reality, and to become one with the forces of reality. This is a sublime form of courage. That's the invitation here.
Can you speak to that, Cynthia, that belief of courage and the subtleness that you had to find within yourself to make that transition and to continue on this path?
For me, it was actually the courage to love myself enough to do exactly that. It was, and such, and 5 years ago, if we were having a conversation of my working with women and enjoying what I'm doing in the realm, and she opened the call saying, here's the goddess Cynthia, I had to have the courage to shed being the only woman in a very male-dominated environment and thinking I had to carry a lot of that masculine and male energy and forcefulness to be effective. And that also was part of my identity. But I had to love myself enough to say, I'm worth being who I really am and expressing, and I love your word, goddess, that goddess aspect of who I am. And when that shines through, it's like magic. It's like a dance. And that's the transcendent place for me. And that did take courage to do. A lot of courage.
Well, we're so grateful that you've made that transition, because I believe the world is starving for that essence and that goddess energy that you bring so beautifully, gracefully, and eloquently to our place and our space. And because we are uncut here, I'm going to go here because I have had the honor and privilege of being in your sacred realm. And you have access to more than just the here and now. Can we talk about your ability to see beyond into metaphysical realms and what you've even termed the fifth dimension? Can you speak about that and how it helps you and supports you to be a transcendent leader?
Yeah, sometimes I call it the fifth dimension because I think that's the space that we start to play there and above, right? Because I think there are, this is a multi-dimensional, multi-universe that we exist in. A simple way of doing it, Sachin often teaches about stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3, right? So for example, in stage 1, let's say in business, I may be doing something very transactional. That would be a stage 1 business. I sell something, somebody buys it, there's a transaction. Stage 2 would be something more, it's kind of transformational in terms of I may sell something, but it's not as if I'm going to expect, it's like quid pro quo, right? So I sell something to somebody, but I'm expecting at some point in time, they're going to do some kind of a favor back to me, right? So it's a quid pro quo in stage 2. Stage 3 is actually, it's kind of for the self and the greater good of all, right? So you're in a space of, I may serve this particular client in one way, but I know that what's going to be coming back for me tenfold could be coming from someplace else in the universe, right? It's not about the quid pro quo kind of thing in a stage, what we call stage 2. So as we move up these stages in different aspects of our life, we have access to much more of, I think we go beyond metaphysical. I think we go into the mystical. I think we go into the wonder of it all. I think we stay in the space of opening up to the information that's riding on these airwaves always when we allow our logic mind to shut down for a while and we access that. And that's beyond the third dimension. And so, and Sachin said, we kind of go beyond time and space. And I think in some aspect, we've all experienced this when you kind of get in the flow, as they say, and you're doing something and all of a sudden you look up and you've lost track of time because you've been doing it for 3 hours, but you loved it and you had no sense of time. Well, that's on a very small scale, but we can actually live in that space where we are actually more in an opportunity of commanding time and space, if you will. It's being able to define it in such a, it's not even defining it, it's just it's a sense of being when I have let go of my senses in this third dimension, right? So it's having the courage to let go of some of that we've trusted for all of our lives and all of our careers, that what I see, feel, and touch is real. Suspend our disbelief for a while and set that aside and look beyond that, right? And it's the idea of going within and being in a space of wonder and curiosity and beyond even intuition, to a place of operating more from a knowing and connecting into the information on the waves of all of those dimensions, because it's all there. It's just our ability to access it.
I love this conversation. Satyan, please share your insights. I know you're very familiar with the fifth dimension.
Well, I'm going to circle back a little bit to, because I was very inspired by your shares, and here I have two amazing, elegant, empowered goddesses, I must say, and I'm honored to be your friends and to be of service, and our collegial connection. We have so many wonderful connections. And, you know, one of the things about transcendent leadership is we must embrace, not neutralize, but we must embrace our enlightened feminine and enlightened masculine. The first stage masculine is the old school masculine within us. Old eras, you know, male dominance, what he says goes, all of those ideas. That's old school. And the first stage feminine is the helpless woman codependency. That's of the past. That's what we don't want to act from or live from. That's the first stage. And so because we have these imprints of unhealthy versions of that, sometimes as society, we aim to neutralize those old imprints and come to greater wholeness, balancing our masculine, feminine, so as not to live out the errors of yesterday, but to evolve beyond. So the second stage, feminine type of individual, they have more balance. They've cultivated within themselves, you know, they're happy that they're, as an example, a woman or a man, they're happy. And they can also do anything a man can do or a woman can do. So there's the ability to go and be, how can I say, able and capable as masculine or feminine. And it's the same true that happens for, you know, the males or those with a masculine essence. In the first stage, there's a lot of spine and less heart. In the second stage, as we evolve, we start to open our heart. We start to get in touch with more feminine qualities of emotions and feelings and flow, which is beautiful. And in transcendent leadership, we as leaders, we can come into the fullness of our divine masculine and feminine. And the divine masculine and feminine is not male or female. The divine masculine and feminine are eternal forces within us, living, growing, moving us. It's controlling all subconscious, all activities at a microscopic level, and also controlling the forces of all existence, these masculine and feminine energies, of which we are an aspect of. So when we recognize that we are the feminine goddess, that we have that, and we're happy to be in our female feminine power, and we're happy to be in our masculine, integral, authentic power, then we rise together in a new way. We're not neutralized, and we're not living out the old patterns of old school relating. We're ascending, evolving, and also including the fullness of our masculine and feminine wonders and joys and powers, and we can let go of the unhealthy parts. And we can honor and nourish and see that in the teams that we're guiding and leading. We can nourish the feminine in them by giving them praise, acknowledgement, by letting them know that you see the light that they have. The feminine in the universe is the light of the universe. By seeing, recognizing, acknowledging, praising, holding, protecting, and nurturing the feminine in your own body, in your own heart, in your own soul, in your families, in your workplace, having places where there's a place for feminine rejuvenation of the body, mind, and spirit. I really believe that this is the time to bring back and awaken and infuse greater feminine enlightened life force in all our businesses. It's very much needed. We've been in the dry land of strong masculine force for years. Not that it's wrong, it just needs now the addition and the inclusion of the full spectrum of the wonder of this universe.
Wow, that was absolutely gorgeous. I love hearing your take on it, because it just gives us all permission to explore more of that in whatever way we're calling to explore. And what we're talking about with this fifth dimension, you know, beyond metaphysical, can you speak to that, of what Cynthia has brought into our awareness? And now we have an amazing term.
Oh, you brought it into our awareness.
You know I was going to go there.
Yeah.
In the warrior sage traditions, there's the known, there's the unknown, there's the unknowable. The unknowable is the mysticism, is the realm of the mystics. It's actually the way things actually are. And the depth of transcendence is living from as the mystical, in which the personality structure dissolves, where there's no I that you're carrying around that's solid, and that the I dissolves its boundaries, and now it's really the cosmos is you. There's no separation. You still look like you, but your inner domain is not constricted or confined by your former sense of what your I sense is. When we're feeling and touching, and this is all that we do, many times in our work in transcendent leadership, we're touching these ephemeral mystical realms to blow open our fixated realities, to blow open the idea that the world is solid 3D. And when we start blowing open and we go, oh my goodness, there's a universe way beyond the realm of my physical existence, then we start to recognize we are the crafters on a whole other level of reality. And that's when it becomes really fun. That's when life just goes to a whole new level. So that's the invitation and the vibration of existence and the mystical, I would say.
Amazing. Well, we actually have a question coming in for a viewer. They want to know, is there a tool or a technique to access the fifth dimension? So Cynthia, I'd love for you to take this one.
To Sachin. He's been my guide to venture into that space, so we'll let him talk.
Well, there's a whole series of practices and processes that we actually have an academy for. Our academy is called Accelerated Evolution Academy.com. You can look it up. And there's a series of psycho-spiritual processes that take us from stuck, fixated states of consciousness, problems, challenges, from money to relationship to business, you name it. And what happens is when you go through these guided step-by-step processes and you learn them on yourself, what happens is you're able to go from any form of challenge into these transcendent states in a very deep way, rapidly, literally within minutes, and you'll have a whole new relationship to your former problems. You'll come from possibility rather than from problem state. And you'll enter these non-dual states, or what we call unity states, oneness states of consciousness. And when you know how to do that yourself at will, whenever you've got a challenge, then you become your own inner guru, your own inner navigator. And so these are the techniques that I've been really gifted by my teachers and mentors that I now share through our Accelerated Evolution Academy.
Amazing.
I like the part you said, Sachin, because that's been, you become your own guru. You know, when you first start and you're working with an amazing teacher or practitioner in your group that's actually guiding you through the process, you can have these amazing experiences and you can touch into the realm of possibility, right? But through the practice of doing it and incorporating it into your your daily practices, etc., you become your own guru. And it was a moment of total awareness for me was having gone through a process that we learned in one of the sessions, where I actually had the experience and the awareness of recognizing that it's first of all, total consciousness in the presence of a greater consciousness. And my body was in consciousness. It's not like consciousness was in my body. So it totally dissolved the physical form aspect for a moment. And I had such an awareness of that being in consciousness versus consciousness within me type thing. Do you see what I'm saying? And it dissolved. You know, you can't go back and look at the problem set that you're dealing with from the same perspective anymore. It dissolves the idea that, oh, here's a problem and you've got, you do this or do that. And it opens it up to a whole place of deeper wisdom or understanding of that and guidance to how to take action and move that forward. I mean, it's a totally different realm, a different space. It defies the logic mind, right?
Yeah. When you speak about it, it's so powerful. And I know that you've shared that one of your passions is bringing this consciousness into corporations and corporate America. Can you speak to that and that vision that you have? What if more corporations became aware of this expansion of consciousness? What do you see as possibility for that?
It's literally why I wanted to step out of corporate America and start our own business, so that these aspects of leadership and transcendent, we could bring them into businesses and say, there's another way of doing business, right? It's not that way was wrong, but as Sachin was saying earlier, with regards to even the divine feminine and bringing that into a culture, it's a holistic way of transcendent leadership. I'll never forget the first time I went into with a leadership group, and they were trying to, business was in trouble. They were going through, dynamics amongst themselves. And there were 3 partners that were really leading the charge in this particular business. And so we had a small group session, and with those 3 partners, I did one of the exercises that you alluded to earlier, Sachin, that said, what was it that I wanted most and didn't get enough of, right? And so when we went through that exercise, which is like dim the lights, get quiet, bring them into, get them out of beta mode, get them down into theta, and, have them actually connect to that inner space. That's not a typical strategy meeting in a company, but their willingness to go there and discover for themselves, they came back with a recognition of how their leadership style was actually the very thing that was stifling and creating the chaos in the business. And by just going through that one process, they were able to turn it around and start viewing the perspective of the business through a different lens. And all of a sudden, the realm of possibility opened up for them, and they were coming back with, here's all of the ways that we can start to address and fix some of the shortcomings in the business so that we can actually grow. It was so interesting for me because this was a couple of years ago that we did this, and not too long ago I got a call back from them, and they said, would you come and spend some time with us again? And I went back in, and the whole first day, what they wanted to share was how successful they had been when they implemented all the things that they said that they were going to put into place. And now they were ready to go to the next level. And did I have another process for them to help them get there? And I'm going, oh, if only I could call Satyen right now, right? But it's like, it was such a gratifying thing to see that these things, people are open to them, but they've just never seen them. There's not enough of us out there going out and being willing, and sometimes even to have the courage, right? That was kind of courage. I had to have the courage to say, look, I'm going to dim the lights here, and we're going to go in a process, and you're not going to feel the same, we're going to get you out of your beta zone. And I didn't quite introduce it that way, but literally that's what we were doing. And I think there needs to be more of us out there willing to go into businesses and say, it's okay to do this. We are divine beings and having this physical experience, as they say, and it's okay to tap into that and use that as part of how you show up in the world instead of the suits that we think we need, that we are. So it opened up a whole door of opportunity for me, because when I saw what they were doing and how they were implementing it, and it softened their heart, and they really started to move into a form of leadership that was going to really guide their business to where they needed to go. It gave me and reinforcing me, I just have to keep doing more of it. So I just kept building my business and building my team and doing more of it. And you know what? When business has success, these leaders are out there saying, look, if you tell me to, go run around the field 10 times and stand on my head, and that's how I'll, get my business turned around, they'll do it. I'm not telling them to do that. I'm telling them to sit in a room and get in touch with who they really are. Right. And that's that's easier. So the entrepreneurs and business leaders, they want to be successful. They want to have peak performance, and they're willing to show up and be guided. In a lot of cases in corporate America, it just hasn't been introduced to them yet. And now we have these awakened leaders and these transcendent leaders, and we just need to get out there and have the courage to show them what's possible.
Well, we are in a very special time of evolution, because the ones who have the courage to share this, we find that they're so needed, they're so thirsty. There's so many people who want access to this. Well, I know that I could keep going. I never want this conversation to end. In conclusion of this amazing interview, we've been asking all of our transcendent leaders if you could give one action step or one piece of advice to the viewer, what would you see as being the most powerful thing that they can take, that they can implement, and that they can integrate into their beingness to become a transcendent leader like yourself?
I would have to say top of the hit parade for me was literally equipping myself with the tools and the methodology and the learning, and being in an environment where they were being used. So literally, as we said earlier, you become your own guru. I didn't have to, every time I had a problem, go running off to find somebody or find a teacher to help me. But and that's one of the beautiful things I think, Satyen, you do with Warrior Sage Community, is you teach people to fish. And because we are going to be going to all four corners of the world in different places. And so the one thing I would say is, learn the methods, learn the tools, learn how to manage and manage isn't exactly the right word, but it's like equip yourself with what you need to know for your own journey, and surround yourself with others that are on that journey that can help you grow and expand and learn. But it's not about leaning and relying on someone else. It's preparing yourself. And the tools that we talked about, the processes, the spiritual processes that we learn that can get you out of trouble very quickly. It's like, learn them, use them, apply them. The transformation and the transcendence is amazing. But it's got to drop from the intellectual place of, I know that, down into a deeper heart space of, I am that. I am that. Right. And it is learn to be your guru, be your own guru. And there's places that, in ways to do that. And don't be lazy about it. Don't be lazy about it. Do it, get up and do it. And expand and
Wow. What a breath of fresh air you are. And Satyan, please help us bring this to a conclusion. What does it feel like to hear Cynthia speak about this, knowing her for the years that you've known her? What's in your heart to express?
Well, Cynthia, I'm just really in deep love and honor of who you are, how you serve, and all that you're becoming and touching. It's very moving, very fulfilling for me as a mentor and a guide and as a friend. So I want to acknowledge that you're a true example of living transcendence in your relationships, in your business, everywhere. So, and to finish with, I'd like to offer what my Kung Fu teachers taught me, a leadership poem, if you will, when I was young, a creed, and it goes like this. And this is to honor you, Cynthia, as an example, to you, Andre, as an example, and to all of us, to be an example of the fullness that we are. And it goes like this: I would rather see an example than to hear one any day.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather one could walk with me than merely tell the way. For the eyes are better pupils, more willing than the ear. Fine counsel is confusing, but example is always clear. I can watch your life in action, yet your tongue too fast may run. I can soon learn how to do it if I've only seen it done. For best of all, the leaders are the ones who live their creed. For seeing good in action is what everybody needs. I may misunderstand you and the high advice you give, yet there's no misunderstanding of how you act and how you live.
beautiful.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
That is awesome.
And that's the perfect ending for this incredible interview. I know that this is one to be watched over and over again. There were so many nuggets of gold and wisdom of transcendent leadership throughout this. Cynthia, thank you for your generosity of spirit, your heart, your beauty, your brilliance. I know that we are all going to be following you and watching, because we can't wait to see what's next. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. What an opportunity. I'm so blessed to be with both of you. You're just wonderful. And thank you for guiding us through a beautiful interview process, Andrea. It's just a joy to be able to share with folks what kind of transformation we can actually do and have an experience in our life with the right leadership and guidance. Thank you, Satyan, for just being the teacher and the mentor that literally, when my heart was broken and I was searching for where do I go, the door opened up, and it's been life-changing.
Wow. What an incredible interview. What an honor to be here on this journey of transcendent leadership. If you are watching, if you are witnessing, there's no accident. You are here with us, and we are all sharing our knowledge, our gifts, our wisdom, because transcendence is all about rising one another up and sharing our gifts. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being a part of this. Satyan, thank you so much for creating another amazing episode.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we would love to hear your feedback. Let us know, what was your big takeaway? What did you learn most? What are you going to apply in your life and on your path as a transcendent leader? Thank you so much for watching. And remember, stay true to yourself, and here's to your transcendence.